Good morning, everyone. My name is Kieran O'Donoghue. I'm the Educational Outreach Manager for the AgriTech cluster. This is newly forming cluster based in Ireland. This is our kickoff event. The focus of our event this morning is to talk about the opportunities that exist for Ireland's AgriTech SMEs. So a few ground rules on the event before we get going. First of all, the event is being recorded, and also to say to you, all participants, if you have any questions during the event, please feel free to pose those using the Q&A facility. You should see that on your screen, and we'll answer any questions you may have throughout the event. So, as a short introduction, first of all, I want to outline a little bit the value offering that the cluster approach can deliver for the AgriTech space. And also, we'll talk a little bit around the AgriTech landscape in this event, how that's evolving and providing opportunities for companies and for farmers alike. I suppose just first of all to set out this approach, this clustering initiative is being supported by Enterprise Ireland, and it's based out of the Munster Technological University in Kerry, formerly known as the Institute of Technology Tralee. The goal that we have for this cluster is essentially to build a cluster or a coming together of agri-tech companies, particularly focused on the SME companies, looking at opportunities for collaboration in terms of working together to improve the overall opportunities and improve the growth that's possible for those companies. So thanks for taking part in our event, our kickoff event today. The main aim of our event is to communicate the AgriTech cluster message. That's the first main target that we have. And secondly, we want to encourage involvement. Involvement in terms of how companies can get involved in driving productivity for SMEs in particular, how competitiveness can be improved through developing new or improving existing products and processes, how new markets can be unlocked through working together, and I suppose overall to see how product offerings, how the quality can be improved, how functionality can be enhanced in order to grow business. And I suppose also to say that clustering more and more is being recognized internationally as a key economic driver for growth. So here on the left side, you see our agenda for this session. So after this short introduction, we are going to have a series of speaker presentations, speakers from across the AgriTech ecosystem to give us an insight into the AgriTech space at the moment, and also to discuss the clustering initiative. After that, we'll have a panel discussion where we'll be looking at the questions that you may have, and we'll discuss that in an open way. And as a final part into our agenda, we'll discuss the next steps from the AgriTech cluster. So as I said, this is our kickoff event, and we're going to discuss also the next steps going forward. So I'd like to introduce you now to our speakers. We have, first up, we'll have James Maloney. James is the Senior Regional Development Executive for Enterprise Ireland. He's the brains behind the innovation arena at the National Ploughing Championships. After James, we're going to be joined by Professor Edmund Hartley. Edmund is a well-known AgriTech advocate. He's an adjunct full professor at UCD and the former CEO of Dairymaster. Edmund will share his unique insight into how innovative technologies can help shape the future of farming. Then we'll have Professor Joseph Walsh. Joe is the head of the School of STEM at the MTU in Kerry, also the director of the IMAR Research Centre and the ACE Centre of Excellence at the college. And then last but not least, we're joined by Deirdre O'Donovan. Deirdre is the Managing Director of O'Donovan Engineering Coachford, and she'll give us an insight into the journey that O'Donovan Engineering have been on and where she sees opportunities for the future. So to kick off proceedings, I'd like to ask James, invite James to share a screen. And hi, James, you're welcome. And James will give us the Enterprise Ireland perspective on industry clustering, why it can benefit the agri-tech sector.
Thanks, Karen. Will you stop sharing your, yeah, perfect. Can everyone see that, or is it?
Yes.
We're sorry, it started at the back, so we'll head to the front.
No problem. Yeah. Back to the beginning. That's it. Very good.
So just as Kieran said, I know the panel speakers here anyhow, so I just had a quick look down to the audience as well, just being nosy, and I know a fair bit of you on the call, on the webinar as well. So but look, Enterprise Ireland is delighted to get involved in this, because what we see with our European counterparts, that this type of program and clustering among an SME sector is working quite well and creating a lot of opportunities. Just to give you a little bit of background on the fund itself, it was back in 2019. There was 4.6 million approved for it, concentrating on regionally based academic institutions, and such as the IoTs and the TUs, to drive productivity and competitiveness across the regions. So 12 were successful from the call and funded. And again, as Kieran has mentioned, it really is a way of kind of a strategic approach to how the interaction between the TUs and the IoTs can work on common interests and to drive productivity and internationalization. Just to give you a flavor of some of the other projects that were supported in furniture manufacturing, the marine, connected health, industry 4.0, construction, advanced manufacturing, cybersecurity, engineering, the bioeconomy, medtech, and agri-tech. And this funding really complements the cores of the Future Jobs Ireland programme initiative by the government, where they're looking at innovation, enhancing skills in the region, developing the SME sector, and as with every industry now, looking at the climate change challenge and lowering our carbon emissions. Where we'd see it from an AgTech point of view is in Ireland, and we'll talk about this, the AgTech sector, the AgTech engineering sector is worth about 500 million in exports. And it's actually grown this year in spite of COVID, and is quite successful. Where we'd see this, that the clustering and what we'd see in a lot of companies is they're trying to do everything, and they don't know where to help for the innovation to be developed and what other skills are out there. So it's often, if there's a common interest or an area, we would love to see more of an engagement with the companies and with each other. And just on the next slide, if we were to look at the potential wins, just from talking to companies at the minute, what we're seeing right out with Brexit is the transport and logistics and freight and the costs that are associated with that. So if there was a cluster that was forming together, if there was a series of components needed for an engineering cluster around Tralee or Kerry, Cork, that would love to see people getting together to look at what components are needed, how they can go about reducing their transactional costs. So if you look just at the flow diagram, it's exactly what Kieran was talking about: provide a pool of suppliers and a skilled workforce. Often, like, this is about attracting talent into the regions as well. That we can see that there is an emerging ecosystem and a development of a shared interest among companies. There might be one skill set in one company that could benefit another company, where we're not asking now that every company has to know everything about each other and you pour the milk into Weetabix for the morning, but where there is a shared interest and a common goal, it would be nice to see that skill can develop in a kind of a collaboration between the sectors. It works well in other sectors. We've seen this in medtech, we've seen it in aerospace, and we particularly see it in the Nordic countries where they have a shared vision on community and on lowering the carbon agenda. I guess where this has to happen for us is the building of the trust in the SME sector and how well managed it will be, and that everyone has kind of their interests aligned of what they can gain from the cluster. Strategic partnerships, I often find in a cluster that if we're going to engage with Teagasc or you're going to the Department of Agriculture, that it's nice to speak from a cluster's perspective in terms of, instead of one person making the call, that this is the cluster of agri-tech companies that is going to look at this area or what concerns they have or opportunities. And then you can get higher levels of specialization and a favorable ecosystem. And I just know from talking to everyone that's involved, like the steps, if just look, the steps from the manufacturing process where you get the design, the idea, the spark, the initiative, to get that through everything, the IP, the compliance, the trial work. It's a long way to go before you shake that man's hand for a deal when you develop a product. And I think that's where our SME sector is probably limited, because if the nature of a lot of our agri-tech companies are turning over somewhere between maybe 2 million or 1 million to 5 million, there's a good share of them there. And most of them guys are trying to do it all on their own. And that's a lonely place to be for an SME. And to get that jump up to the next level, I think that's where the agri-tech cluster could really form a real benefit. Just moving on, just Kieran asked me just to kind of just talk about what the agri-tech sector means for Ireland. And as you can see, Enterprise Ireland is involved nearly on this wheel, if you like, in every stage of the process, and we're delighted to be involved on this cluster as well. So our agenda is quite broad. You can see it from the startup agenda, where we have invested in companies in our HPSU strategy like APIS Protect, Hexafly, and partnered with the Yield Lab on the AgTech Accelerator funding. Again, if we were to look at that, our pipeline of companies, while the quality is very good, our pipeline of stuff and innovation is coming through isn't probably not as good as it is across Europe. The reasons probably for that is we're quite a young ag tech sector. If you look at the oldest engineering company in the world, we're a little bit behind them. So technology has been going on in other countries a little bit faster than here. But that's not to say that what we're doing here is really backed up by top quality science and innovation. And that's delighted to be involved with MTU, the technology gateways, to help develop and nurture these ideas from the SME level and from the startup. And then on to our SMEs, companies like Dairy Master, O'Donovan Engineering here today with us, Sam Shine, all the cluster of companies that are located in Munster, and then as we move all through the country as well. That's really important for us. If you see the agri-engineering figure there of 500 million, it's the SMEs that are driving that figure for us, and the amount of people that are employed, probably about 4,000 in the sector if you look at the services and supply and the engineering as well. And that all contributes into our global ecosystem for our food, where there's 150,000 people employed altogether. So if you were to look at this from an Enterprise Ireland point of view and from an Ireland Inc. point of view, getting the SMEs right in ag tech and in the agri-food is really, really, really important for us. And that, as we look at it through our innovation arena and through the ecosystem development and developing our companies, because I think there is going to be a change coming in terms of how we will look at agriculture with the climate change agenda, the Green Deal strategy, and as we saw in the Farmers Journal last week, the potential implications for agriculture and the products that we were going to be making to support that. Just on the innovation arena itself, in 2020, again, there are common streams that we see coming through from companies and what they're trying to achieve. And this could really be benefited as well through the cluster. Like, we're seeing a lot of our traditional companies looking at sensors and the Internet of Things, because they know that this is going to happen, that farmers are going to need more information as they manage through the future. They're also going to need to interpret that information in a very friendly way. There's there's not much point in giving a farmer an Excel spreadsheet with 500 lines of data if you can't get someone to take that data and put it down into a user-friendly approach that's going to benefit both him, the advisor, the consultants, or the bank manager, whoever is looking at that. We're also looking at streams on artificial intelligence, and this is really to come in with the labor shortage that's coming in on farms. So you're training machines and behavior and patterns like robotic milking, all like sensors that are coming into play for measuring soil temperature or soil moisture, that farmers are actually looking and getting more information on that. Our traditional engineering, if we're to touch on one pain point there that is coming down through the sectors, is attracting talent into our traditional engineering companies and looking at even the core skills of welding, design, fabrication. How are we going to achieve that in the future, and where are we going to get that coming from? So I think it's particular that we have to show people that this is quite an interesting and good area for people and graduates to get involved in. And the other side then is moving on to plant breeding and alternative proteins. As we look at the environmental challenge, we saw companies like Hexafly looking at producing alternative proteins, Biotanics looking at other aspects of plant development. And it's quite interesting that the whole thing, how we're going to get this whole sector and ecosystem to move in that direction while supporting our traditional industries at the minute. Just for the innovation arena, just a quick word, we are open at the minute. We can the web address is there, it's innovationarena.ie. It's a really simple application process, 250 words, description of your company, and once you make it through the shortlisting stage, then that's when the real interview starts and the 20 minutes on Zoom with the team of Dragon Den style judges. We worked at this point. I'd have to say it's unlikely that we will be in September in the field at the ploughing, and it'll be a virtual competition just in living with COVID. On that, sorry, this is my second last slide. We've seen the challenges on COVID with innovation down the last year. One company pivoted brilliantly, Marti, because the marts closed. They adapted their technology, which started in the innovation as an animal sensing device, looking at training the camera to look for movement of animals, looking for respiratory diseases, also potential condition scoring. As that company looked at this avenue, they formed another company beside it, Marti, and they've gone now and done 3,000 marts, and they're working across the UK and Ireland and developing the technology, which has been extremely successful. We've looked at all the challenges in the sector as well, and keeping staff safe during COVID has been a problem. Double shifts or integrating workspaces, all you know it on the call, what's after happening. The engagement of launching new products, and that's what the virtual innovation arena is trying to do, is to reach that audience. We had 17,500 views of the Malone Bale Express in the first week on our YouTube channel, which is quite important as the leads were generated from there because we didn't have the one-to-one interaction. We can see the digital revolution, how farming has switched over to digital. You know, our mobile phones are now our buddies more so than ever, because we're not getting to the co-ops, we're not getting to the marts. We're looking at all our information coming through, and farmers are doing transactions. Just to give myself from my own background, I actually bought machinery on my phone without ever going to see it this year, or bought supplies and components. So it's becoming a different way of, and how the SME companies are going to adapt to that, who's behind the phones there, who's going to provide that service for them. And it's all about the different engagement. And I think it has to say, like, agriculture is open 24/7, and it has been throughout COVID, and it's been a real good achievement for our companies to deal with that. That's it. Just the last slide. Agriculture it's the least digitized in the McKinsey report. It's the least digitized sectors, and that's traditionally because it was high labor involvement in it. So there's a lot of movement in that direction, as we'll see in the future. But that's a snippet or a quick whistle-stop tour of where we are in the ag tech sector at the moment, and where I think the benefits of clustering will come in. Thank you very much.
Thanks, James. Thanks. Very nice insight from your side. For us, just one question for you coming through. What do you see as the main obstacle for the cluster? So in terms of gaining traction into what would be one of the main obstacles you see that would need to be overcome to for the cluster to be successful in the agri-tech sector?
Well, I think upskill is probably, yeah, there is obstacles, but there's kind of opportunities as well. Like, so I would see, as I mentioned before, like our agri-tech environment is quite young, and our SME sector come from most, or in this sector, are family-based companies that have, have been used to doing this on their own and plowing the lonely furrow on it. So I think strong management and getting a sense of what the pain points are, engagement and communication will be key to it in informing what the SME companies want from the cluster. Like, we can tell people what they want and they don't really want it, and a cluster won't work. So I think the SME has to really engage with the cluster to drive what their agenda is and see how we deliver it.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, James. And we'll talk more during the panel discussion in a few minutes' time. So now I'd like to invite Edmund Hartley to, I guess, to give us his insight into the agriculture technology relationship. I suppose the marriage that's there already, and I suppose, Edmund, how you see that marriage developing in the future. So
yeah,
you can take your screen, Edmund.
So thanks very much, Kieran. I'm going to briefly talk about, I suppose, some of the collaboration that has happened between Dairymaster and MTU, but also about, I suppose, innovation. How do you innovate? Because that's probably the main factor that sets you apart when you're out there in the marketplace. And there's lots of different ways by which you can do it. And I suppose, in Dairymaster, we had 5 product categories. There was 40 different countries customers were in, and there was 5 different bases around the world, but it was all focused on the dairy farmer. And the big question we would ask ourselves was always, how would we do something better? And I described an awful lot of my job. We'll say, it's, I have a background in engineering and so on. It was trying to join the dots that weren't joined. And a big part of that was figuring out what were the new things that could make your products more attractive. And I always described innovation as like baking a cake. So it didn't matter what kind of a cake you were baking, you just wanted to make it more attractive so that your customer enjoyed them more, and that effectively you sold more and you had more happier customers, and so on. And then if you look around the world, and I suppose if you look and say, right, what are the opportunities in agriculture, and what are the opportunities for the various SMEs that are on the call today? First thing we have to think about is, the world population is growing, and people don't realize what it is, but it's growing by 200,000 people a day. The island of Ireland every month, or the population equivalent of Germany each and every year. The need for food is there. The need for producing food efficiently is there. Particularly if you look at climate change and how is agriculture going to change? What role has digitalization? If we looked, James mentioned the use of the mobile phone. Where does that come into thing? Where does the whole area of digitalization? That was a big key part of what we did. But the other area that's actually very important is, looking outside your own organization and saying to yourself, how do I develop new things? Be that the people, which are the team on the pitch, let's say, and I call the pitch, it's a little bit like a marketplace. You're there, you have your team playing on the pitch, and you want to improve all the time. So how do you keep doing that? And a big part of that is actually looking outside your own organization and saying, what can I bring back in? And clustering, I see, as a big advantage to doing that. One very clear example of where collaboration was used, and Professor Joseph Walsh will talk about it shortly, is in the formation of the AgriTech Centre of Excellence. And that basically happened because I suppose every business has opportunities and challenges. And one of the big challenges that we had was about developing people, and doing that when they're geographically dispersed. And then we asked ourselves, how would technology come and play a role in that? And this was all pre-COVID, pre-mass adoption of Zoom and so on, and we were looking to the future. And it actually started with a number of conversations. And it just happened that out of the Regional Action Plan for Jobs, Enterprise Ireland had a funding call. There was a number of ideas that we had together. We were talking with MTU. I was talking with the CEOs of other organizations, and I suppose, in Dairymaster, I was the CEO, the largest shareholder. You could decide that what you wanted to do and go after it if you wanted. But we really felt we needed a team and we needed to collaborate. And that's how the AgriTech Centre of Excellence got set up. And I'll just give a little bit of a history to it. And you can be surprised how these collaborations actually start, because one of the first conversations, and James on the panel and many more of you will know, as there was an AgriTech or an agri recruitment event on in the RDS. And in fact, one of the first conversations actually happened in the car park on the way in and the way out. This was an idea. Was one interested? And a pile of things, if you're in a cluster or you're in a network, a pile of things happen by the conversations that happen in the background. It's not by necessarily what's on the agenda, but it happens by the conversations. So I'll just briefly show you what was involved in the AgriTech Centre. So anyway, so I talked about the population growing. We knew this was an opportunity from 2011, 7 billion to 10 billion people in 2050. The need for food production. Who's going to produce the food? I had the pleasure of meeting the late Kofi Annan a number of years ago, and he talked about a number of the problems in the world. And I considered him like the world's troubleshooter, if you like. So whatever was the geopolitical issue that was at the time, the UN invariably was called in to try to deal with it. But the biggest challenge he saw ahead was how was the world going to feed itself at that particular point in time. So ACE got set up by a collaboration between Dairymaster, McHale and Abbey. And the first part of it was about commitment. We had to say as organizations, were we committed? Was this something we wanted to achieve? And we then went and we said, we talked to MTU, we talked to other organizations, and we said, what can we do? We felt that Ireland could be positioned as the global leader in agriculture and agri-tech industries. If you look at Germany, you might think of automotive, the automotive sector, or engineering. If you think of Switzerland, you think of it maybe a Swiss clock. If you think of Belgium, you might think of chocolate. So if you think of Ireland, well, what do you want it to be known for? And food and agriculture is something that affects, I would say, every corner of the country and is hugely important economically. And we want to do something that would drive an exponential change. And a lot of people consider innovation about just, a new product that does something better or faster or easier. But innovation can take a much broader role than that. And you'll see that actually happening. So it was typically around the offering. So in other words, the product or the system. But now you can look at, let's say, the service, the channel, the brand, the customer engagement. And if you look at that, it's how we interact with our customers. But then there's all the ways up here around process, structure, profit model. So I suppose, look, I've had the opportunity to look at organizations from BMW to Boeing, and you say, what is it that they're doing in this space? And it's not about what you're doing in agriculture. And what would surprise you about BMW is they actually make more money out of their finance section than they do out of actually making cars. And part of that is because, they brought in, let's say, PCP finance, so that basically they sell more cars to the same customers. And it was about innovating in this area was one of the factors that allowed them to drive their sales and allow people to change cars quicker was what it was about. So I won't go into this in a big way, but just to show you that these were the areas. And one of the challenges was, if you've, let's say, a company here in Ireland and you've maybe an international importer or a distributor in another country, and you have a farmer and you have a local dealer network, they expect the same level of service, support and customer experience, no matter where they are. So if you think about that, if you were buying a car, that's what you'd expect if you buy a particular brand. And there's no reason why that shouldn't be the same in the agri-tech sector. But then if you look at it, travel time is a big barrier to getting dealers to headquarters for training and so on. And, you know, it's a big part of the learning experience. And we said, well, what could we do that would be different around that? And we set out a number of key goals, and we defined a whole strategy document. And in fact, if anyone wants to see it, this is the document. It's quite a good document, but I'll just talk about the main pillars of it. And we came together and we said, what are the 5 pillars that we felt were important to work on as an organization? And the first one was customer focused research and innovation. In other words, to do research, to do innovation that mattered to our customers. Second of all, how could we have not just good customer experience, but exceptional customer experience? What would that look like? What would that look like in the future? And then if we talk about an organization, and if we look at the people within the organization, you know, I describe an organization like your team on the pitch, and you really need your team, you know, to be able to do stuff and to be of that mindset of progressing. So how would we enhance the organizational capabilities? How would we look at our broader organization? Because invariably we all have dealer networks of one sort or another. And what would excellence in that area look like? And then what would greater collaboration and knowledge sharing look like? So a big part of how we tackled these things was looking at around areas like the learning experience, and Professor Joseph Walsh will show you what we actually did in ACE. And it was around using AR and VR and remote technologies. And this all got set off at a time where, you know, we're all very used to, let's say, going online, looking at Zoom, doing things like that. But basically, how could we get the knowledge and experience actually out there on the ground, you know, and effectively people are used to, you know, logging in remotely to a computer, but how could you remotely effectively log into a technician and see what they were at? And a big part of innovation, you can actually see an awful lot of things happening in other industries or in other areas. And one of the ones that, you know, for some of the people there, you know, you look at Star Trek and, you know, and I see different people smiling, you know, when I mention Star Trek. But you look at it, you know, the mobile phone, they had it back then. You look at the 3D printer, they had the replicator back then, and then they had the holodeck. And effectively, the mobile phone is there, the 3D printer is there, the replicator, and the holodeck is there now. And that's what you'll see is set up there in MTU. It allows you to look and to experience visualizations so that you can better understand products and use VR and AR to do that. So look, all this happened because of 2 reasons. One is you have to have an innovation mindset, and 2, it's about collaboration. I believe for the companies that are on this meeting today, there's a fabulous opportunity ahead of you. You have to define the direction in where you want to go. In my experience, there's about 4 factors that determine the performance of an organization. First is direction. So where are we going? How are we going to get there? Second is competence. Do we have the capability to get there? The third is the opportunity. Is the opportunity there to be got? And then the motivation is that a place where we want to go? And if you have that, there is nowhere where you can't actually go. And if I look back at, let's say, the last 20 years, would I have thought that I would have done and achieved what I did in those 20 years standing from where I was standing? But I had the opportunity to go out and to look and to see other companies. And I must say, there was actually an informal cluster done by one of James's colleagues in Enterprise Ireland, Tom Kelly. And we saw companies that within a generation, they had gone from, let's say, being a 100-person company to being a 1,000-person company. And when you see that, and when you see a path, and when you see a pathway, you know, it can be dark, it can be unknown, you know, you can be afraid of traveling in the dark, but as soon as you put a light on it and you see, actually, it's not that hard, it's all doable, and you actually see other organizations going on the same journey, or you see somebody that has been down that path before you, it makes it much easier. And that's, I suppose, really what I see the clustering opportunity bringing in this case. So thanks very much, everybody.
Edmund, thanks very much for your insights there. Really interesting. And just one question for you, Edmund, just coming in there. I suppose around the technology and the uptake of technology in the agricultural community. Do you think the agricultural community is ready for more technology solutions at the moment?
I think absolutely. I've no doubt in the world about it. But the technology, there's about 5 factors that determine, I suppose, technology adoption, right? And, you know, if it's appropriate and you consider all those things, there's no reason why not, right? Farmers are the most shrewd, the most on the ball business people you will meet. They're spending their own money for their own situation and for their own benefit. If it makes sense to them, they tend to buy things, you know. So if the technology is relevant, it's packaged together properly, I see no reason why not, you know. But you have to get all the things lined up properly for that, you know.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Edmund. And we'll talk again shortly in the panel discussion. So now I'd like to invite Joseph Walsh to take the screen, and Joe will give us an overview of AgriTech activities at MTU in Kerry. So I think you're just on mute there, I think, Joe.
Sorry, Kieran. So I'll just share it again. Okay, I hope everyone can see my slide. So I'm delighted to be here today at the launch of the AgriTech Ireland cluster. And I suppose, as Edmund has already outlined, you know, it was great to be behind this. MTU Kerry is the National Centre for Agricultural Engineering, has a long and proud history of agriculture, and the foundations of the Institute of Technology, Tralee, was based in agricultural engineering education, and we're very proud to be involved in that. I think, as Kieran has already outlined, I'm head of school in MTU Kerry, head of the School of STEM, and I'm also a director of the IMA Research Centre and one of the directors of the AgriTech Centre of Excellence. And I'm also a funded investigator with 2 of the Science Foundation Ireland centres, LERO, the Irish Software Research Centre, and Confirm in the area of smart manufacturing. And I would look at the agri-food domain within each of those centres. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of MTU Kerry and the courses that we offer. And then I'll outline just some of the AgriTech activities that we're looking at, including the AgriTech Centre of Excellence and some of the larger projects. So MTU Kerry has over 3,500 students. We have 3 schools of study. My own school, the School of STEM. We also have Business, Computing and Humanities and Health and Social Sciences. So just to mention, we have approval for a new STEM building, which is approximately 30 million euros and 9,000 square meters. This was a fantastic development within MTU Kerry. It will be based in the North Campus of the university, and we're hoping that that will be completed in Q4 of 2023. So that would be a massive addition to MTU Kerry. So the School of STEM in MTU Kerry has, I suppose, 4 department sections. We have the traditional Department of Engineering, then we have Biological and Pharmaceutical Sciences, and then we have a new initiative called READY, which is Rethinking Engineering Education in Ireland, and we'll have some more information about that in the coming weeks and months. And also we're home to the medical commencement, international medical commencement and pharmacy commencement program that we run in collaboration with the Royal College of Surgeons, where students from primarily the Middle East come to MTU Kerry for 1 year before transferring into the College of Surgeons to either do pharmacy or medicine. And that has been a very successful initiative over the last decade. So we offer traditional apprenticeships at craft level 6, right up to postgraduate awards at master's and PhD doctoral level. We've about 1,250 part-time and full-time students and about 70 academic staff. And we also would have as I mentioned, about 150 international medical or pharmacy or podiatry commencement program students. We would pride ourselves that our programs are very practical and focus on the development of the skills that industry really are looking for. And that's something that always has been very strong with, I suppose, the Institute of Technology sector and now the Technological University sector. And, you know, our students benefit from, you know, real hands-on practical laboratory skills. We do a final year project in every one of our programs, which in general is very industry focused. And we also, I suppose, have an industrial work placement, and that's something that is very important. So all of our students will have been given the opportunity to work in industry before they go out and actually graduate. And we really feel this is so important when they graduate, because they can hit the ground running and they already have that industry experience. This is just a flavour of the programs I suppose we offer, but look, from an agricultural perspective, you know, we have the full suite of agricultural science, agricultural engineering, agricultural mechanization. We also do a craft apprenticeship, and we're the only provider of agricultural mechanics. And, you know, related programs that would relate, we have a very successful program in veterinary bioscience. And our wildlife biology program is unique within the third level sector also, and it's a very popular program, as well as our traditional mechanical, mechanical and manufacturing program, and civil and environmental engineering. And as I already mentioned, we also cover the traditional craft apprentices, carpentry and joinery, electrician, and as I also already mentioned, agricultural mechanics. And we do a wide flavour of online blended programs, which we're certainly very proud of in recent years, and a full suite of, you know, part-time programs that are delivered in a format where it's online 2 or 3 evenings a week, and then students come to us for block release days throughout the semester, once or twice throughout the semester, so they can still be employed. They can still be working, but they're still learning and getting those upskilling programs and skills that are required. So that's just the flavour of them. And any other, I suppose, if anyone is interested in engaging with us or any of these programs, please contact the college directly or myself, and certainly I'll point you in the right direction. We also have within the school, I suppose the vast majority of the research within the MTU Kerry campus would be done through the school, and we have 2 successful research centres, one in the area of biotechnology, Shannon ABC, and my own research centre, which would be IMAR, which focuses primarily in mechatronics and sensors, and I'll give you some more information about that now. So what IMAR does is that we work, I suppose, primarily on technologies, and this is just some of the technologies that we look at. IMAR is one of the national technology gateways, as James has already outlined. There's 15 of them throughout the country, based in the institutes of technologies or the technological universities now. And each of the technology gateways focuses and specializes in a certain area of expertise. So take, for example, if you need support in plastics, the plastics or polymers technology gateway would be in Athlone, whereas we would be more mechatronics and sensors. So each gateway has access and expertise to assist companies in really whatever way they need support. And we can provide those supports and contacts through our sister technology gateways. This is a flavor of the technologies we work with, from autonomous systems, Internet of Things, and obviously, augmented and virtual reality is something that we really feel is going to be a game changer in the coming years. And the solutions that we offer is, obviously automation, robotics, and these solutions can reduce process cost, improve quality, predict problems. And then I suppose, also looking at smart factories, connected devices, digital services, virtual training, digitization. We feel that these solutions and applications that we can assist you with are really at the forefront of where companies need to be. And by working with us, certainly we can work on assisting you with addressing any issues in these particular areas. So there is supports available nationally, obviously from Enterprise Ireland, through feasibility studies, innovation vouchers, innovation partnerships. So there is great supports that will take, I suppose, de-risk the research from companies. And this is something that we've been very successful with over the last number of years. And obviously then through Science Foundation Ireland, bigger projects that would be more medium to long term, there's great supports available. So any companies that are interested in engaging in research projects, there can be a considerable input from state agencies to cover the cost of those research programs with, a cash contribution, a modest enough cash contribution from the collaborating companies. And obviously this is very beneficial from a university perspective, a company perspective, and obviously from a state agency perspective, that they are supporting SMEs or larger companies through that knowledge development, technology development, and business development. So there is other, I suppose, supports, looking outwards towards Europe, Horizon Europe, and bigger initiatives that would be there. And we've also had a number of bigger projects with companies such as Dairy Master over the years, FP7 projects, and that's another thing that we can work with companies on. So just being conscious of time, this is a wide range of the collaborators, just a flavour of who we work with from both an educational and research perspective. And now just to touch on two initiatives that I think tie in with what we're doing around the activity from an MTU Kerry perspective around what we're trying to do for the actual AgriTech sector. So this is a big project funded by SFI Confirm around the digital transformation of agri-tech manufacturing in Ireland. The project is called TAGME. 11 researchers are being employed, 7 masters and PhD students, and 4 research assistants and postdocs. And I suppose primarily what we're trying to do here is that we've brought together a number of the agri-tech companies, Dairy Master, McHale's and Abbey. We have used Confirm for the centre effect to provide support in collaboration with the companies. And what we're trying to do is position Ireland at the forefront of the agri-tech industry. And I think Edmund has already outlined what we want to try to do here with all of this activity and initiatives that we're doing is that when you think of Ireland, you think of agri-tech and you think of that quality brand. For this particular project, we're looking at 2 areas. How you can ensure that everyone within your supply chain is the best that they can be. And we feel the way that you can do that is to ensure that they have the best training available. And that may not be possible if you have a dealer that's based in New Zealand or, North America, but, through technology such as virtual reality and augmented reality, we feel that we can provide that immersive training to ensure that everyone within that supply chain is the best that they can be, and to ensure that your customer is always getting that exceptional customer experience. The other area of this project is that, that quality brand. How do you ensure that, when your piece of machinery or equipment is purchased by a customer, that it has that exceptional quality? And what we want to do is develop technologies looking at low cost, I suppose, smaller integrated sensor solutions that can provide predictive maintenance and repair using, we'll say, technologies such as artificial intelligence, autonomous systems, smart machines, to ensure that you have the best quality product that never fails in the field, or if there is any issue, that it is highlighted well before and it can be addressed well before a failure occurs. So these are the 2 elements of this particular project, and a very exciting initiative that we actually will be launching on the 4th of May, and there'll be more information about that in the coming days. So I think Edmund has already touched off the AgriTech Centre of Excellence. It's a fantastic initiative. We're delighted to have a state-of-the-art virtual reality and augmented reality suite based in MTU Kerry. It really is there for any company who wishes to avail of this type of technology. As Edmund has said, this is like the holodeck in Star Trek. The possibilities are endless for anyone who's really interested in that immersive digital technical training. This is something that you really must see. The AgriTech Centre of Excellence is open to working with any company to assist them in using these technologies for sales, marketing, installation, servicing. This is what we're there for. So please engage. And I think this is, as I've already outlined, the possibilities using this technology are endless. And I suppose as I said at the start, we are the National Centre of Agricultural Engineering. There's a lot of activity in this particular space. This is one of 3 initiatives that we're launching in the next couple of weeks. We launched the AgriTech Suite last week, and obviously the AgriTech Ireland Cluster this week, and the TAGMI project next week. And we're delighted to be a part of all of these projects. And really, we think that this is a very exciting area. We have an excellent student pipeline that we can deliver and integrate into the companies in the AgriTech sector. And we're only more than willing and open to discussing any opportunities or potential with any type of company. Obviously, the AgriTech sector is what we're looking at to provide any assistance that we can in addressing any issues and providing solutions to you to help you drive on your businesses. So thank you very much. And I'll take any questions.
Okay, thanks very much, Joseph. I think we're just in the interest of time, we'll keep the questions. There is a short video. We'll if you have any questions, please put them up on the Q&A there, and we'll respond. And maybe just asking the speakers as you see those questions, if you can reply as well, folks, to those questions live, would be great. I suppose just to and what both Edmund and Joseph have just spoken about, I just want to share a very short video clip about ACE so that you can get a flavor of the kind of technologies the guys have been talking about there. So just one moment, I'll share this with you. Okay, so hopefully you got a good feel there, I guess, for the type of technologies the guys have been talking about. So now I'd like to invite Deirdre to share her view on, I suppose, from the SME AgriTech sector, and share a little bit about the journey of O'Donovan Engineering and how you see that journey progressing, Deirdre. So.
Great, thank you very much. I'll just get this technology started first. We'll get over that. Share. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, just a slide view now.
Right, yeah. I'll get there. Okay.
Perfect.
I'll take this out of the way. So thank you so much for inviting us to speak today here. As I said, or as Kieran said, my name is Deirdre O'Donovan. I'm the General Manager of O'Donovan Engineering. The company was founded in 1978 by Marion and Damien O'Donovan, or as we occasionally call them these days, Mammy and Daddy. Myself and my brother are also involved in the company. So it was founded in 1978, and Damien has a great ability to visualize and design products. I kind of joke and say that he's like the original version of 3D CAD. He can see in how it's all going to come together and tell us what's going to go wrong, or where potentially we could make improvements before it's ever made up. So it was that, combined with his very deep understanding of animals and how they will interact with the product, and the metal fabrication ability as well, combining all those into a business, and combined with Marion then and her ability to actually run a business, there was no stopping them. So 43 years on, we're here. The company initially really grew by word of mouth. Damien developed and tested the products on his own farm. He was dairy farming at the time. You know, he could see and make improvements, and soon people were kind of asking, oh, can you make me one of those as well? And that's where the business started from. So he did have a very clear vision, and that vision is still the core of everything we do today. And that is to make livestock handling more efficient and safer for both animal and handler. So taking the safety and the longevity of products into account was really, really key to how we developed the product range that we have today. Myself and my brother, we grew up really in and with the business. It was, you know, like the fifth child essentially in the family. So from 1978, we had the family farm, small, you know, the standard farm at the time. And then we expanded out, and it expanded and expanded. And this is us today over here in 2020. We have our offices located in Coach County in Cork. Our manufacturing plant, distribution yards, stores and display areas are all there, as well as 50 full-time staff. We're very glad, actually, we have a couple of graduates from Tralee IT on the staff here, and excellent staff members they are. So we're very glad to have them on board, so we can attest to the quality that's coming out of MTU. And I suppose our product range and service offering, it really has diversified over the years. We now offer solutions for dairy and beef cattle, calves, sheep, pigs. And what we do, and what's core to our business, is we don't just offer off-the-shelf solutions. We also offer highly customized solutions, so that what we are putting into customers' farms is going to work for them specifically. We also manufacture, we do batch manufacturing for companies. So part of it is maybe making an element of their design or an element of their product. So we do a lot of that as well. And we've also partnered with some of the world's leading agri brands, including Hubertechnic, Mick, Wydell, Kirsten, Tralee, True Test. There's quite a few. And some of these were the main distributors for in Ireland. And key to selecting and partnering with these brands is that they have the same commitment to quality as we do. So we would always make sure that we are aligned on that. In terms of how our products get to market, we kind of have 3 routes to market. So we do a lot of direct to customer. That would generally be site visits or site consultations, as well as laying out, discussing the customer needs, and really getting to the core of what they're trying to achieve on their farms, providing a design and laying out their livestock solutions. We also have a retail, we have a number of retail partners throughout the country, so they would supply our products nationwide. And then the third part is our online. So we have a website, obviously, and our products are really, you know, much more accessible to customers worldwide. So they can go on, they can source information, get inspiration, you know, previous projects we've done, or they can place orders, you know, at a time that works for them. It's not the 8 to 5. So customers have really engaged with that, and, you know, we're developing that all the time. In general, technology has been a major driver in our business. Like, machine capabilities have changed so much in 43 years. And if you take a simple product such as a hanger for a gate, like really nobody really thinks too much about how you make a hanger for a gate, but traditionally there would have been 5 operations involved in making that product. So you would have to cut it, punch it, notch it, sand it, and welding. And now you can not only visualize how the product is going to look using tools such as 3D CAD or SolidWorks or any of these programs, but you can also utilize new machine technology, which will reduce those operations to up to 2 operations now. And, you know, I'm very much simplifying that with a gate hanger, but if you expand that out to a product with a number of moving parts or, you know, a little bit more complexity, you can really see how innovations and adopting these innovations can allow businesses like ours to scale and grow and provide a much better quality product to the market and to our clients. People have a prejudice that farming is low tech, and I know some of you touched on this in your slides as well. We found farmers, they're not slow adopters of technology, but if we look at what's on farms and the development that has come out of the agri sector, I think it's quite amazing how things have moved on since we started 43 years ago. And we find that once you can prove how much of a benefit the product will be, farmers will adopt the technology and utilize it without too many issues. We started selling the TrueTest range of products over 35 years ago in the Irish market. And we've really seen with this product how, you know, it has evolved and, you know, been successfully utilized on farms. Weight is one of the primary indicators of animal health, and all of this data that's been collected on farms can really help make decisions around animal management, breeding, feeding, and this information can also be shared and used to build a much better national picture. This has been done very successfully with the BEEP scheme, which was launched in 2019. So that's the Beef Environmental Efficiency Programme. And that really aims to increase the efficiency of Ireland's herd by collecting the data. And it's made it very accessible to farmers all over Ireland by using a rental model through depots. So there's over 100 depots nationwide, 400 units available for farmers to rent. So it's made it accessible, it's made it affordable for them to capture that information. You can see I have that's a basic weighing system that would sit into an existing animal crush. You have your indicator, and then you have your EID readers. And EID readers are another technology that's becoming a lot more prevalent in Ireland. Initially, the sheep herd, it became mandatory a number of years ago that all sheep had to be electronically tagged. And people are seeing the benefits of utilizing technology like this, or what can be tagged onto it. So utilizing a tag reader like this or a panel reader, this system here is a 5-way drafter for sheep. So you can use a stick reader to identify animals, record movements, record lambing events. There's a load that you can do with them. But equally, you can also do weigh, draft, and do a number of operations when you tag it in with other technology as well. So it's an amazing opportunity to really share and use that information and use the technology that's there. We've also worked with a number of companies, including Dairy Geezer, and James will be happy to hear that we actually met Dairy Geezer through the Innovation Arena at the ploughing match a number of years ago. So that's how we connected with them first. We were both in the Innovation Arena. And we now work with them and we manufacture the frame and the steelwork of their units. So they're able to focus on developing the product, the technology, and we work with them on that. And it's been really great working with Stella Martin and the team there and developing that and working with them over a number of years. The other thing is looking at, you know, how customers are evolving and how their needs are evolving. So we're just one cog in the wheel, but we know that if we understand a customer's long-term development goals, it's going to lower the barriers to expansion for them. So an example here on the left is a calf house. So this is a standard calf house design. You have your group penning design, but this customer here added on automatic calf feeders. So we would always ask the question of where's the customer going next, so that they don't have to restructure, relay out the entire shed, but they will be able to add on to that as time goes on. Same goes if there's a plan to invest in maybe automatic drafting in years to come. We'd also integrate that into our design. So our core business is manufacturing the steelwork, the lead in, the lead out. You'll see here, I'm just going to play this short video, but I'm going to talk over it. So this is the lead into a parlour. You can see this is where the cows will go into the parlour here. So they're being read going into the parlour. And this is the exit race. So as the cows exit the parlour, they go out through this exit race and through this drafting race. So this isn't a product that we manufacture, but it's a product that we need to link in with in our steelwork. So this is the milking parlour. This is the cows leading out of the race here. And as they go into the unit, the gates are automatically opening and it's reading the tag. And in this particular case, this cow has been drafted out to the left for maybe AI or treatment. This is the cows coming out the end of the crush. So it just shows how the designs that we have, we do need to link in with other partners, and we're constantly looking at what is happening in the market and what other companies are doing. In our experience, I suppose, if somebody's looking to invest in technology, it's not really so much that they don't believe that the technology will work. Sometimes it's just that kind of catch-22 of you need the more revenue to invest to grow, but you can't generate the revenue without investing. And that leap of faith is quite scary. And, you know, especially if you need to make the additional changes or investments in infrastructure. I saw somebody asked a question earlier about broadband and connectivity on farms, and that is a big factor as well. You know, things like insufficient broadband coverage on farms, and it is a challenge that we see in the market, and I'm sure other suppliers in the market would see as well. So what's next for our market? I mean, who knows? The last 12 months have been, I suppose, we've all learned an awful lot. You know, there's always something new, recessions or market pricing or worldwide pandemic. The farming sector, we find it's really resilient, and but it's always changing. And it's so important that we keep up and we lead the way in technology rather than trying to chase the pack. Like every crisis, there's an opportunity. COVID, it has accelerated the adoption of technology. How we're communicating with our customers has changed hugely over the last 12 months. And we've all had to get a little bit creative. But we have had opportunities to connect with people in new ways, such as what we're doing here today. Brexit as well has brought new challenges, but it has the potential to open up our market hugely and open up huge opportunities for the Irish agri sector. One key thing we've taken out of the past 12 months is just how important that core skill of fabrication and you know, keeping that local, because the global supply chain has really been affected by COVID-19 and other market factors. And it is such a core skill, and we really are passionate about keeping that, retaining it and developing it and upskilling staff. I mean, what I particularly enjoy about working in the Irish agri sector is that it's small. We're very close to the market, and we have quite a few different types of farms as well. And when we're dealing with farmers, they're the people who are actually using the equipment on the ground, and you can get such brilliant feedback from them. And we're really looking forward to what will come from working with this AgriTech cluster. And we really do hope it'll result in greater collaboration between everyone in the sector, because we can position Ireland to be world leaders in agri-technology if we can all work together. It's my kumbaya message there at the end. But thank you so much for your attention. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask.
Very good, Deirdre. Thanks for your insight there. Folks, just in the interest of time, if any questions, and thanks to the other speakers as well for answering those questions on the chat. We'll move because we're gone a little over time, and I want to also share with you some, I suppose, next steps that we want to do now to establish the cluster. So please, if you're interested in getting involved, please bear with me for a few minutes. There's a few slides really, and also thanks very much to the speakers for your insights. It's very informative. And I suppose I want to bring us back just for a few minutes to think about, I suppose, what I said at the beginning about our objective for this event, right? So I suppose really it's around, you know, creating an opportunity for agri-tech companies to come together to work towards common goals. And I suppose when we look at the current landscape at the moment and just breaking it down into, you know, we've heard from these three, I suppose, entities, if you like, today. And I suppose the aim really of the AgriTech cluster is to sort of find common goals where, even though there are already existing linkages, and we saw that from Joseph Walsh's presentations already, where there's very good collaborative projects underway. But I guess there's definitely a feeling that there's a lot more opportunity there by working closer together. So defining common goals will be one of the main objectives at the beginning, right? And being able to put, I suppose, industry needs at the forefront and overlapping those needs then with what can be offered by government organizations and the various knowledge organizations that we've seen, the third level research centers as well. And the focus area for the cluster activities will be here. So in these areas of overlap where activities and projects can be defined with the, I suppose, common goals of the various stakeholders involved. So this is where the focus will be. And I suppose just this slide to give a flavor really of some of the focus areas that can be considered, right? So here on the left-hand side are, I suppose, just a very short list of where clusters, successful clusters, because clustering idea is not a new one, and clusters that are already in existence have been very successful in working in these areas. So if you or your organization are interested in working in these areas, the cluster approach may be for you, right? And I suppose that's what I want you to start to think about now for yourself and your own organizations is this something you'd like to get involved with? The key thing for us with the cluster is that we want the activities and the focus areas to be industry-led. This is one of the core principles. And the initial stages, looking on the right-hand side here at this sort of model, the idea is that we build a solid foundation. So here on the green section, okay, that we define that foundation using a strategy at the beginning that'll develop into a plan of work where all the stakeholders involved in the cluster are agreed upon. And I guess that plan of work then will be delivered on various core pillars. So you can see here's a selection of what these pillars could look like. So it was mentioned already a number of times by the speakers around people development could be an area. Also around opportunities from the collaboration. I think as Edmund said nicely in his discussion with us there around, you know, sometimes it's the spillover discussions that weren't even planned or where the collaborations can take a seed from, right? And also around the innovations, we've seen there the types of technologies that are now available, helping to innovate products and processes for producing those products as well. And I suppose also trying to unlock new routes to market could be an area. These are just, I suppose, an example to give you a flavor of the types of areas that would be under consideration. And the idea going forward is that these and working on these pillars and building those together will help position Irish agri-tech at the forefront in a global sense. So this, I guess, is a very ambitious target, but based on the delivering high quality products with good levels of functionality, and I suppose also delivering those for an affordable price so they're competitive in the global marketplace. So this is, I guess, where we would like to build a model of focus for the cluster. So might ask now, okay, what's next, right? So for us today is really our kickoff event. So this is really to communicate our message, and also I suppose now to encourage involvement. And just to give a flavor, I suppose, around the involvement, what we see over the next few months. So over the summer months, we're going to work on building a strategy for the cluster. We're going to have a series of workshops where the needs of industry will be put together, will be fine-tuned and developed into a set of actions. Those actions then will be formalized into a work plan that will be member agreed, and I suppose targeted really on where value add can be brought to the AgriTech SME sector. This is the key for us, and I suppose this work plan, which will now be developed over the next few months, will form the basis for how the cluster activities will continue for the next few years ahead. And I suppose at this point then, right, in terms of where your thoughts are, I suppose it's really now a question for you and the organizations that could be involved as stakeholders here in this cluster is, do you really want to be involved? Do you see the need for your organization to get involved at this stage? After this event, for all participants, I'll be sending out a pack from the event, which will include a membership form. And for all interested organizations, it would be great to hear from you and to get that membership form back, ideally back by Friday lunchtime of this week, because what I'm proposing to do next week is start to book the dates already in May for the beginning of these workshops. So I suppose right now it's really to think about, you know, is the value, do you see the value offering here for your organization? And then taking the decision really, do you want to be involved at this stage? Okay, so this is where we see the cluster developing over the next few months, and really now open to engagement and looking to get all stakeholders, especially stakeholders in the AgriTech SME space, involved in shaping the future of the cluster. So just a few parting comments now. This is the last slide from my side. So just a short thing on the membership call once again. Folks. As I mentioned, I'll issue the forums after the event, and please return by Friday at 12 p.m. So any inquiries as well, if you need any clarification on any of the questions or any questions, you can send an email to the email address here, info@agritecireland.ie. And going forward, we're looking forward really to working with you together and to build this AgriTech cluster for the good of all the stakeholders that will be involved in this initiative. So I suppose parting thanks especially to our guest speakers. Thanks very much for your contribution and your insights. Also to those behind the scenes in supporting the setup of the event, and also as well to the attendees who took the time out today to join us, folks. Very much appreciated, and thanks for the questions as well on the Q&A.